Hey there, timekeepers. Welcome back to the channel where we twist the fabric of anime reality. I'm your host, Chronos, and today we're diving into part 4 of What If Deku Had Quirk Duplication? As always, a huge shout out to the creative genius, Draconite227, for crafting this epic story. Your support has been absolutely amazing, and I can't thank you enough. Bakugo vs. Uraraka. Begin! Katsuki stood where he was. She would have to come and attack him. This gave him plenty of time to watch her eyes and plan. Something about her eyes put him off. It was pure determination. Her look almost matched the crazed look Izuku could get on him from time to time. It bothered Katsuki how similar these two had become. Uraraka was meek and something changed. Uraraka was scared until Izuku pulled her along. Now he could feel her defiant spirit. Her desire to become something more came through. If he didn't know better, he'd say that she was gunning for symbol of peace also. The brunette wasted no time charging at him. She was running, but her hands were low. Her back was bent over enough that her head was in line with her shoulders. Katsuki had no choice to match her stance and swipe low to high when he countered. Some of the explosions skidded across the ground, picking up rubble. The brunette dodged to her right, narrowly getting missed by the blast. Another swipe and another dodge. Uraraka was pretty quick for what he knew about her. Have you been training with Izuku? Katsuki asked, letting out another blast. Yeah, why? Does it show? Uraraka asked from behind the smoke screen. Katsuki let out another blast and hit nothing. She had already dodged and moved to attack from another angle. This was getting annoying. He hadn't hit her completely either. At most his attacks left her unscathed. It wasn't wearing him down or anything. The smoke screen was the result of him using a less powerful explosion. Katsuki had the terrible knowledge that the human skull could only withstand so much concussive force before it killed you. An amount of force he was more than capable of exuding. You know, you're a lot better than I thought you would be. This is a decent matchup, Katsuki taunted, smirking. It was a classic tactic to get the opponent on edge and then make a mistake. The blonde was not too lucky. No response was had. Instead, he reacted too late to an attack and not one he'd think she would choose. Uraraka came sliding in. Her sliding kick landed right on his ankle on one leg. This threw him for a loop. He was not expecting such a direct attack. His palm pointed down. She rolled a meter to the side, just dodging the blast. The concrete came loose and chunks of it were floating. Holy shit, floating? That can't be good, Katsuki thought, looking up. His eyes widened, but then he grinned. Don't underestimate me. Katsuki aimed to the sky. Just before he let the explosion rip, a block of concrete slammed into his ribs. This knocked him off balance. He looked at her, and she had numerous floating projectiles near her. All the floating rubble was loosely above Katsuki. It was tons of material. If she let it loose all at once, and it hit him, he'd be out for the count. But those high-speed, heavy-ass projectiles of hers could put a serious dent in his ability to fight her in the future. Lesser of two evils, he supposed. Katsuki resumed his plans. 90% explosion coming up. Another rock careened into his side. That one hurt a lot more. He gritted his teeth and fired the mother of all explosions. The stadium quaked from the explosion. Katsuki's arm hurt from that, but all the rubble above him was reduced to pebbles. Another rock made its way to him. He blasted it from the air. Her aim was pretty good. Another rock from behind. This time he sidestepped it. One more from the right. She was strafing or doubling back. Katsuki blasted the thrown rock. He then aimed one palm for strafing and the other for doubling back. The strafing blast hit her. That did not stop two more rock from flying. The smoke was beginning to dissipate. Uraraka was panting. She had a dozen or so floating rocks scattered around the arena. Katsuki had to be careful. Those things hurt, and if she hit him it could be bad for him. Granting if Izuku could fly, so could he. If she removed the weightlessness at a bad time, it could be bad. Her determined look hadn't diminished at all. Katsuki rocketed at Uraraka. He took the fight to her. He held out his right palm as he got close. She dodged to the right and grabbed him by the wrist. Her quirk activated and she pivoted. It wasn't much extra force, but it completely redirected him. Katsuki was flying to the edge of the ring. He blasted himself upwards and he floated in the air. Uraraka glared at him. No wonder he does this all the time. It feels pretty damn awesome, Katsuki commented, grinning. The blonde blasted upwards, gaining height before he dove back down to her. It was proper air travel. Well, for a plane, if you were going low from high, all that momentum would be conserved. He was coming right at her. She grinned, causing his instincts to go wild. For a moment they took over. The weightlessness was released. Katsuki had to blast the ground hard and in the direction he was going. He had to stop his momentum before he crashed on the ground. The blast that was aimed down tore through the concrete. More ammo for her. Before he touched the ground, a rock careened over to him. It got him in the gut. Another missed him by a few centimeters. The blonde managed to stop his momentum and touched down nicely. Time to really try. Uraraka was at the end of her rope. She was clearly exhausted. Her power was near depletion and her physical state was near its limit. Still, she was focused enough to stay alert. Katsuki came at her. One palm blasted at her. She dodged. Another palm exploded at her. She couldn't move fast enough. She crossed her arms and took the brunt of the hit. It shot her 5 meters, 16 feet, across the stage. She was struggling to get up. Katsuki blasted over to her and delivered a devastating low kick to her chest. This made her fly another 2 meters, 7 feet. She was almost out of bounds. Again she tried to get up, but to no avail. Uraraka, can you continue? Midnight asked. I can continue. Uraraka pulled herself to her feet. She was wobbly to say the least. Her fiery spirit shone through. She made a combative stance and took a deep breath. She was the true spirit of Plus Ultra. Uraraka charged at Katsuki. She whiffed the fist. Katsuki grimaced. This looked bad. He decided to put her out of mercy. As nicely as he could, he put a hand on her gut and pushed her out. The crowd was not happy with him and his choice. She proved to be the best matchup with him so far. If any hero thinks otherwise, I'd like to see you match up against this young hero. His skill is on par with many of you that call yourself pro-heroes, Aizawa stated coldly. The crowd grew silent. Katsuki Bakugo wins via ring out, Midnight declared. Katsuki didn't hesitate to jump down and offer a hand to Uraraka. She was tired beyond belief, but took the help. Thanks, Bakugo, Uraraka replied. TCH, you earned it, you idoit. Bakugo smiled. He helped her out of the field. What an amazing match! I beat everyone's dying to see the next round, President Mike said, getting a roar from the crowd. Bakugo and Uraraka crossed paths with Izuku. Tear him up, Bakugo encouraged, patting Izuku on the shoulder. I plan on it, Izuku replied. Midoriya versus Todoroki. The tension between the two teens could be cut with a knife. Midnight gulped, wondering just how ridiculous this match was going to be. They both nodded when asked. Begin! The first massive ice wave came forth and was met by an equally impressive green explosion. Izuku's arms were charged with green lightning, and his bulk had been increased. Full body and power explosion running at once. He was using 75% power blasts. Another ice wave. A counter. Izuku kicked it up to 80%. This was the limit. With full body any higher and recoil would be noticeable. This time a blast was let out in advance. A ice wave had to be used to just counter it. This may have annoyed Izuku because he let loose 3 more blasts in near rapid succession. Within the first 10 seconds of the match, Todoroki had used around 40% of his limit just countering. Izuku was one hell of a monster, and Todoroki was determined to use his ice and ice only. Another consecutive blast. Izuku was taking steps toward Todoroki. Another 2 blasts rang out. Come on, Todoroki-san, is that all you have? This so far has been a rather pathetic outing, Izuku taunted, standing his ground at just around the center of the arena. You know my promise. I refuse to use his power, Todoroki replied, sending out another ice wave. This blast was bigger than the last few. The white, red-haired teen had to make an ice wall to block the remaining power. That stung a bit, Izuku thought, pulling out 88%. I know better than anyone that whatever you have inside you is yours and yours alone. I don't for a moment think that these powers are another's. The way I use them cannot be replicated, Izuku retorted, a bit pissed off. So what? I can't give him the pleasure of knowing I'm using his gift, Todoroki rebutted, stomping the ground as a glacial wave came out. Izuku TCH. A 100% explosion obliterated the wave and rocked the whole stadium. Todoroki's ice wall was shattered and he was almost pushed out of the ring by the force alone. This prompted Todoroki to take a few paces towards Izuku, who did not attack despite the opening. Will you get over yourself? There are people out there that depend on our strength to protect and defend them. Can you look them in the eyes and tell them that you held back just to spite your father? Do you think for a damn moment that the helpless civilian gives a damn about your promise? Izuku questioned him, earning more than a few murmurs from the crowd. Many heroes knew the conservation. It was the talk a mentor or higher-ranking hero gave to another. If you can't use all your gifts to save people, what kind of hero are you? Izuku just happened to be the type of hero with a quirk that made him very powerful. Shoto was a mess in his headspace. Midoriya was right, and it hurt to think like that. Keeping his promise had nearly killed 2 people already. But he hated his father so much. The man destroyed his family just for the chase to dethrone All Might. He just couldn't give the satisfaction to his father. He was at his limit. Frost had set in on his right side and his core temperature was getting dangerously low. The area around him had been getting gradually more and more frozen and cold. There was an attack he knew that only he could do. Superheated air could cause a massive explosion. He had the chance to make it happen. Todoroki! Tell me, what kind of hero do you want to be? Midoriya asked from just past center. A small flashback to a simpler time. Shoto was sitting on the couch at their home. His mother was beside him. They were watching All Might on the television. The pro hero was saving people and never once did he frown. Shoto wanted to be just like him. Shoto, what kind of hero do you want to be? She asked him, smiling. Her words had been so gentle and kind back then. She was one of the few things that made getting up in the morning worth it. Seeing her smiled was worth the grueling training and hellish days. I want to be just like All Might, Shoto replied as a kid and punched the air. She laughed and smiled. It was this brief moment he had forgotten. This simple joy. All along he had forgotten what he wanted. I want to be the hero that can smile and save people. Todoroki ignited his left side, warming his core immediately. Midoriya had both his arms together and cupped his palm. This was his finishing move. It was an attack of ridiculous power. Todoroki had something just as good though. The white, red-haired teen stomped down, and ice cascaded out from him. It was covering most of the stage and was about to reach Midoriya. The green-haired teen jumped up and back, dodging the ground effect. He then raised his left hand. He produced his maximum heat straight at Midoriya. At the same time, Midoriya yelled, "Nuclear blast!" Cementos was quick to say the least. He erected a half-dozen concrete walls in between the two. The blast from either side was not dampened significantly by this. When the explosions met, the resulting clash shook the stadium. The smoke was a thick cloud of steam and concrete dust. A lone figure stood in the arena. Izuku stood relatively unscathed in the center. He did not raise up his fist for victory this time. The damage to the arena was fairly amazing. From the point where Izuku's palm met to the outside of the ring had been destroyed by the cone of the explosion. Todoroki was laying on the ground face first in a pile of snow. There was a person-sized dent in the stadium wall. From the looks of it, the force had sent him into the wall of the stadium, and then his snow broke his fall. He was breathing lightly, and otherwise the concussive force had knocked him unconscious. Izuku Midoriya wins via ring out and KO. Midnight declared. Izuku let go of his quirks. Blood was on his forearms and in the ring. The 100% blast had broken his forearm bones and forced them through the skin. Super regeneration would eventually put them back, but they did look quite grotesque. What really bothered Izuku was that power stockpile had a mere 23% left. That might be enough to go toe-to-toe with Katsuki, but it wouldn't last the match. Izuku jumped out of the right. Sorry about the mess. The green-haired teen decided to wait on the grass for his next match. He was laying down. The young man looked over and spotted Endeavor. The number 2 hero gave him a thumbs up. Izuku rolled his eyes and went back to relaxing. A small break while the ring is repaired for like the dozenth time today. Present Mike laughed lightly at his own joke. Present Mike turned to Aizawa in the booth with his mic still on. Don't you think it's an odd choice to make, relaxing like that between the matches? I think Midoriya and Bakugo have had this fight all their lives and now they get to make it official. Aizawa replied, smirking. It sounds like you're looking forward to this battle between them? Present Mike attempting to initiate some banter. Personally, no. Professionally, very much so. I'd like to see what these two can do against each other. Aizawa commented, shrugging. In your professional opinion, who do you think has the advantage? Present Mike inquired. Bakugo has the edge in skill if everything I've seen about him is true. Midoriya unquestionably is the more powerful of the two. If I had to bet, I'd bet on Bakugo. He's had more time to rest and he hasn't been going all out as much as Midoriya has. Aizawa explained. Would you say Bakugo has had it easier up to this point? Present Mike pushed for one more golden comment before Aizawa would seal his lips again. I'd say that the 3 Bakugos had to fight so far. He had to fight smarter and not harder. I believe in both the first and second round Midoriya wasted a lot of power on people he could have easily taken care of. For Todoroki, I'd say they tried, but far too late in Todoroki's case. Aizawa pointed out. Well, folks, that was a great perspective from their teacher Eraserhead. Present Mike boasted, shutting off his mic. I wouldn't be surprised if the ring gets completely demolished by them. Present Mike commented, stretching in his chair. Bakugo vs. Midoriya, the championship round. The match of the century. Bakugo and Midoriya stood on the opposing sides of the ring. Don't you dare hold back, Izuku! Bakugo taunted. Oh, I won't. Izuku grinned, stretching his arms. Are both of you ready? Midnight asked. Yeah. Both of them answered in unison. Let the championship round begin! Midnight shouted. Neither of them moved for nearly 30 seconds. Then they both took off, strafing left and firing off explosions. They were both smiling and felt a sort of euphoria set in. Midoriya had turned off the pads on his fingers, the heel quirk, and sparingly used the power stockpile. Their attack pattern was nearly identical. This was more for show than practically. Bakugo bolted at Midoriya first. They clashed in the center of the arena. The clash of bone-on-bone blocks echoed on the stage. Neither opponent had a real advantage in terms of power. Bakugo was slightly faster and stronger than base Midoriya. I see you turned off Uraraka's quirk, Bakugo pointed out while the two were in a brief stalemate. Wouldn't want you flying around and wreaking havoc. Midoriya grinned, pushing away. That was when Midoriya's body bulked up from the influx of power stockpile. Now he was the faster and stronger of the two, but he lacked something critical still: instinct. It was the one thing that Midoriya could not replicate, and for the most part something he possessed very little of. Most of his actions and attacks were born from two places: creativity or from experience. Very rarely did his body just do as he wanted and move beyond his will. This pure instinctual planning could not be underestimated. Not only could someone use their abilities to their fullest, they could also react at a level most people just couldn't. This is what made Bakugo scary. In terms of raw power, he was below Midoriya. But once his instincts kicked in fully, it would be another type of match. Midoriya re-engaged first and launched barrages of hits. Bakugo blocked and parried pretty much everything. The hits were heavy and hard. The slugfest was interrupted by a flash bomb and a jump back. Bakugo blasted the ground, breaking up the arena. He had the advantage if he could add some chaos. Unbeknownst to Bakugo, Midoriya had about 6 minutes left and his power would be gone after that. If Midoriya couldn't close out the match by then, it would be over for him. His base power was not enough to take down Bakugo. Uraraka's quirk was activated. He placed his hand onto the broken ground and kicked off the ground. Midoriya had just dodged another explosion leveled at him. The ground floated up into the air. Repeating Uraraka was not the plan. Using his telekinesis was. Even though it was around 50 kilograms of force, it would still be super annoying to have to deal with multiple projectiles and Midoriya. This was about the time Bakugo's instinct was in full swing. The young protege sidestepped a chunk and blasted another. He then kicked off the ground at a charging Midoriya. Bakugo led with a devastating overhead kick. It was further sped up with an explosion. Midoriya raised his arms and felt his bones break from the impact. That had hurt. Bakugo twisted his body and leveled a blast at Midoriya's chest. The green-haired boy pushed Bakugo off, propelling him into the air. The blast for his chest missed and deafened him on one side. Bakugo blasted the ground, stabilizing his retreat. Just as he landed, 2 chunks of rocks flew at him. Bakugo blasted himself out of the way, narrowly dodging the rocks. Many of the rocks from the stadium had been floating above them. Midoriya's nosebleed, and all at once he launched all of rubble at Bakugo. His psychic power was over at that point. Bakugo leveled a massive explosion at the meteor storm of rubble. That was actually a pretty good move, idea, and name. That stray thought had crossed Midoriya's mind as he rocketed across the stage. Bakugo was too slow to react for once. A blow landed full throttle into Bakugo's stomach. 2 explosions were used to stop his momentum from the hit and exiting stage. Midoriya had 3 minutes left. Bakugo wiped blood from his lips. The punch had hurt him all across his body. Organs hurt and throbbed from the impact force. Then his split-second reaction to slow himself down and prevent getting ringed out put his body through a ton of G's. His muscles from shoulder to fingertip hurt. Midoriya wiped his nose blood off. Green lightning surged and a green explosion crossed the stage. Midoriya was desperate to end the fight. Bakugo took this signal as time to go for the kill. Bakugo blasted himself out of the way and then sped around Midoriya in a wide arc. Several more explosions were aimed and dodged with precise movements. Bakugo's wide arc tightened, cutting closer and increasing his speed. The blonde-haired teen was only touching the ground to stabilize the arc at this point. His explosions were pushing him around like a jet. Bakugo had to eat a blast to get the finishing blow. Midoriya could blast away for several minutes without stopping, and eventually they were going to land. If that happened, he would be at Midoriya's mercy. Instead, he cut sharp and into the next blast. He blasted down and brought his body vertical. The green blast burned his shirt and his blocking arm. The momentum and speed he had gathered at this point was converted for rotational velocity. He was spinning like a top, careening over Midoriya. The wind was whipping around him. Then the call was made. Howitzer impact! It was Bakugo's finishing move. Midoriya did not have the time to prep a nuclear blast or the time to dodge. He had to eat it. The green-haired teen held up both arms and braced for impact. The resulting explosion from Bakugo was like getting hit by a missile. The arena shook and the stage was obliterated. After the smoke from the explosion cleared, it was a bit of a horrific sight to behold. That blast would have been lethal or near fatal at that range. Midoriya was on his back embedded into the concrete of the ring. His arms and chest were missing muscle. His bones were visual and cracked on his arms. If this sight wasn't stunning enough, what came next was terrifying. The green-haired boy got up from his human-shaped crater. His muscles and tendons were rapidly healing. In the span of 25 seconds he was as good as new. Bakugo wasn't too surprised. He charged at the juggernaut of a human. That was when he noticed his bulk from early was gone. Midoriya was sluggish to react to. A punch connected with Midoriya's face. He grabbed Bakugo's wrist immediately afterwards. The blonde-haired teen could tell his friend's vision was failing and now he was running on nothing more than willpower. Bakugo pulled back and threw his other fist. This one was caught. Midoriya kicked out one of his feet and then delivered a hard headbutt. This hit dazed Bakugo. Midoriya reeled back from the recoil as well, letting go of Bakugo. The blonde-haired teen stumbled back one step before going back on the assault. An open palm was swung and leveled at Midoriya. The reaction was not as expected. Midoriya took one step forward and met his palm at nearly point-blank range. Both of them fired off an explosion at the same time. Bakugo's overpowered Midoriya's, but the short-range concussive force had broken a few bones in Bakugo's hand. A similar injury must have been on Midoriya, but his healing factor would have fixed it in an instant. The young protege pivoted his leg and connected a kick into Midoriya's gut. Midoriya was knocked to his back and struggled to get up. His pain threshold had been reached and his nervous system was going into shock. Not that he felt it, but that's what was happening. Bakugo stood above the other teen. He wasn't satisfied with the fight. It should have been way more one-sided. Was Midoriya looking down on him? Was Todoroki a more worthy opponent? This couldn't be the extent to the power of Midoriya. Come on! Get up and fight! Where was all that spunk when you fought Todoroki? Bakugo shouted at the downed Midoriya. Despite Midoriya's best efforts, his body was done cooperating. Muscles trembled when he tried to get up. They then promptly failed and he dropped back onto the broken concrete. It was a horrific, merciless scene. Midnight from the side was getting worried. Midoriya, are you no longer able to fight? Her voice was half pleading with him and half professional. The fire within Midoriya would not back down. He glared at her, and that was the answer. Though pure willpower, he had managed to stand up. He was shaky, but managed to make a stance. Bakugo was on him before he could react. Another punch connected to Midoriya's face. He went down like a sack of bricks. Still he tried to stand. Bakugo grimaced, knowing that anything short of a ring out or knockout would do. Midoriya would have preferred knockout, and Bakugo delivered. Another hard punch rattled Midoriya's skull. He hit the concrete hard, but still he stirred. His jaw had been broken from the impact. His regeneration rate was starting to slow down. He was at his absolute limit. Midoriya half up received another jaw-breaking punch to the face. This time he was down but not out. Once more with a broken jaw and bloody face he tried. Bakugo could barely stomach what he was doing. Just stay down, Bakugo warned, delivering another punch across the other side of Midoriya's face. The green-haired teen just laid on the ring limp. That had done it. He was finally knocked out. Katsuki Bakugo wins via KO. Midnight declared, grimacing. A stretcher was immediately brought out into the ring. One particular viewer. Did you see the raw brutality of that kid? Really gets me thinking if this kid rolled the wrong faction. The man that was known best as Shigaraki stated. Are you sure about him? He's in the hero course for a reason. The well-dressed void being known as Kurojiri warned. Oh, come now. Clearly he's on the wrong faction, and he just needs to be pushed down the right quest line. Then he'll be just like us and we'll have no other home. The insane man replied, grinning. I'll make the preparations, but you have a visitor. I tasked him with finding you some party members, as you would call them. Kurojiri nodded, gesturing to the man sitting at a table. Shigaraki turned to the man who really had a bad fashion sense. Let's get a few things clear. I'm the kind of guy that likes to run solo during quests, but I suppose if I want to tackle the endgame content I'll need a raid team. Just make sure they're all high-level players and not in blues either. Shigaraki explained and threatened. You warned me this guy's got a hell of a way to speak, but I'm a bit of gamer so I know what you mean. The well-dressed man replied. Thank you, Jiren, you will be well compensated for. Kurojiri replied in lieu of Shigaraki. Pleasure doing business with you. You're a great customer after all. Jiren replied, grinning more than usual. Award ceremony for first years. Let's start off by giving a round of applause for our first years. Midnight prompted, getting a whole lot of reaction. After the crowd died down, she continued. And here to present our awards dash. At basically the same time as All Might landed in the arena. "For I am here to give out the awards." There was a momentary awkwardness and Midnight whispered, "Sorry for talking over you." All Might cleared his throat. "I am here to present the awards to the winners of the last round." On third place stood Uraraka and Todoroki. On second place was Yaoyorozu as a stand-in for Midoriya, which was requested by Midoriya. On the first place pedestal was Bakugo. All Might started with the third place winners. "Congratulations, Uraraka and Todoroki, both of you came in third place." He offered it to place around their necks. All Might started with Uraraka giving her some words of encouragement. "I look forward to seeing you grow and become so much more in the future." This meant the world to her being accepted. But no one else was the wiser. She was crying as soon as the medal was around her neck. If she could hug him she would have. Then to Todoroki he said, "Such a heavy burden has been lifted from your heart. I hope to see more of that burden lessened." Todoroki mouthed a thank you and bowed slightly. Next was Yaoyorozu. Momo Yaoyorozu was chosen to be a stand-in for Izuku Midoriya to accept this award on his behalf. All Might cleared up first before offering her the medal. "Tell him that the weight of the world is not his burden alone. Many are more than willing to bear that burden if asked." Momo nodded and held the medal close. All Might stood face to face with Bakugo. The young protege was not happy or willing to cooperate. He wasn't rabid, but he felt undeserving. "I won't take it," Bakugo stated, holding out a hand at All Might. "I understand how you feel, Bakugo, but he made his choices and you have to honor what he left for you." All Might pointed out, earning a grunt from the team. "He should be the one here, not me. I didn't beat him at his best. He was barely 20% against me." Bakugo lashed back, moving away from All Might. "Sometimes we don't get a choice to fight at full capacity. Accept his lose and your victory, you earned it," All Might reasoned. Bakugo grumbled but gave in, only accepting the medal in his palm. "There you have it, folks. The first part of the UA Sport Festival is over. Can everyone give me a dash?" All Might rose up his fist. The stadium in unison called out, "Plus Ultra." It was the Monday after the crazy sport festivals. The class was all back to normal. Except Uraraka, she was different. A difference that Izuku couldn't pin down. Her aura was just different. Kayama and Aizawa had entered into the room together. This meant that a special event was to take place within the class. "Listen up," Aizawa started with. "Today all of you will be picking your hero name and pick an internship to take." Ida raised his hand. Aizawa pointed at him. "What internships? Isn't that something that the second years would have available to them?" President Nizu opened up trial internships with first years. "These are kind of a like take your daughter or son to work days. You aren't full heroes yet, and this is one of the ways to get your foot in the door," Aizawa explained, moving on. "But first Midnight will critique and grade your hero names." He stepped down and let her take the podium. "All right, I'm going to pass out a whiteboard. I want all of you think real hard about your name. This is what you'll be called out and about. This is what people are going to call you. This needs to be something that sings to you and yet relays your character." Midnight stated, handing out a stack to each person in the front row. As intended, every person took one and passed it on. This had stumped Izuku. He had thought about it a huge amount of time, but hadn't settled on anything. He wanted to convey strength and his quirk. The name should be instantly identifying as Izuku Midoriya. An idea came to mind. It was okay, but nothing spectacular. "Who wants to go first?" Midnight asked, seeing a few people were done. Mina didn't miss a beat and rose her hand. The purple girl came up to the front of the class to present her idea. Alien Queen elicited a few odd thoughts about old alien movies. Her attacking face didn't make it any better. "Alien Queen, that might be too disturbing," Midnight commented, earning a pout from Mina. Reluctantly, she went back to her seat. Kaminari was next to come up to the podium. "Stun gun hero, charge bolt." Kaminari punctuated his introduction with a smile. "I like it. Honest and comes out clean. Good work." Midnight nodded to the young man. That seemed to inspire the classroom, and a few more rose their hands. Kirishima was next. "Sturdy hero, Red Riot." He fist pumped and earned a smile from Midnight. "Going for a tribute to Red Crimson?" Midnight asked. "Of course. That man was my idol. I want to be as manly a hero as him," Kirishima replied. "All right, it's good." Midnight offered, gesturing for him to sit down. Next up to the podium was Aoyama. "You can't stop me twinkling." It was a full sentence. That was the collective thought of the class. Midnight took the pad and crossed out 2 words. "Better less wordy and still conveys what you want." It read, "Can't stop twinkling." Izuku was up next. He was nervous, to say the least. This would be his new identity for the rest of his life. The green-haired teen stood at the front of the class. He gulped. On his board he had written, "Multi-quirk hero, multi-force." No one seemed to mind it. That's really appropriate considering what you can do, Midnight commented. Izuku smiled and nodded. Multi-force suited him well. Next up was Jiru. Hearing Hero, Earphone Jack was actually a pretty good name for her. It's self-aware and on the nose. Good job. Midnight beckoned up the next student. It was Bakugo, and Izuku could only imagine the horrible idea Bakugo had come up with. King Murder Explosion read on his whiteboard. Izuku was a part of the few that burst out laughing. That's too violent for a hero name. Midnight deadpanned. Bakugo mumbled something and went back to his seat. Tokoyami got up to the podium and unveiled his name, Jet Black Hero, Tsukuyomi. It was original compared to the rest of the class so far. I like it. It feeds to your dark natural without being violent or adherent at all. Midnight gave him a thumbs up. Thank you, was all Tokoyami had said in reply, unknown to Uraraka, but she was about to take the cake in the class with her hero name. Uravity, she said, showing off her whiteboard. Wow, that's perfect. Quirk and name in one, Midnight commented. Uraraka was freaking out mentally but nodded at the compliment. Ajiri was next, and her was just cute as hell. Rainy Season Hero, Froppy read on her whiteboard. That's cute and kid-friendly. Well done, Midnight commented, absolutely adoring the Froppy name. Cyril was up next, and he wasn't so sure about his name. Taping Hero, Cellophane, Cyril said, presenting his name. It's honest and uses a commonly understood word to make you instantly recognizable, Midnight offered. Cyril pumped his fist, knowing he had hit a home run. Ojiro was up next. Martial Arts Hero, Tailman. Couldn't think of anything else, but it fits, Ojiro commented, shrugging. Sometimes the best hero names are like this. They're instantly recognizable as you. Even if they sound a bit stupid now, it's how you build them up that matters, Midnight explained before finishing the thought. So I'd say yours is pretty good. Tenya walked up to the podium. Izuku could tell the man hadn't picked a hero name yet. Tenya, the tall teen said with an absolutely stern look on his face. Something was off about Ida. Izuku looked at his eye and saw a darkness. A horrible event must have happened. As stealthy as Izuku could, he pulled out his phone. Are you sure you want to be known up your name? It's unusual, but some have done it, Midnight asked, a bit concerned. For now it'll do, Ida replied, getting up from the podium. Izuku found it. Stain had been gaining a huge fanbase, and his crimes weren't completely random either. After a run-in with the League, it's believed that they're connected. Izuku knew better they weren't. What the League stands for and what Stain believes are too far from one another. Sato was up at the front of the class. Sweets Hero, Sugarman, which was completely appropriate. Izuku went back to his phone. He missed what Midnight had to say, but spotted some interesting news. A report claimed that Stain was in Hosu. This was where the Ingenium Hero Agency was. Based on Ida's dark look, there must be a connection. Izuku knew he had to ask Ida about it later. Tentacle Hero, Tentacle, Shoji presented. It's that, like, really close to a Pokemon from the old school Pokemon games? Izuku thought, trying to remember the 1,000 plus Pokemon that were a part of that mega series. Izuku tapped Katsuki on the back. Come up with anything better? Izuku whispered. The green-haired teen zoned out the presentations to help out a friend. Katsuki turned slightly and whispered back. I keep writing down Lord Explosion or Detonation King. Stuff like that. What about Ground Zero? I like the sound of it, and it's still explosion-themed, Izuku offered. Katsuki grinned. It was just like Izuku to come up with an awesome-sounding name and give himself a mediocre one. Sure, sounds good enough for me, Katsuki replied, erasing his previous idea and putting down Ground Zero. Todoroki stood at the front of the class. Black Magus was the name he came up with. So what's the inspiration for this? Midnight asked, hoping it wasn't a race thing. The Final Fantasy series had a job in it called Black Mage. They could cast fire, water, ice, and lightning. I've got 3 of those, unless fire can somehow do lightning. Todoroki smirked, actually trying to make a joke. That's really old school, but they're still popular games, so as long as you're good with it, so am I, Midnight offered. I think is more friendly than a lot of my alternatives, Todoroki commented before heading back to his seat. Izuku had missed Koda and Mineta chatting with Katsuki and looking at his phone. Yaoyorozu was up next. Everything Hero, Creati, Momo stated. It wasn't the most inspiring or creative name, but it was cute. It's kind of cute and on the nose. If you're okay with it, so I am. Midnight nodded to Momo. Izuku couldn't help but chime in. What about 3D Princess? It wasn't a bad name, if not too on the nose. It was also kind of whimsical and regal. Regal was probably the first thought a person would have knowing anything about Momo. That's not bad, if not too on the nose. It does have a certain ring to it, though, Midnight gave her 2 cents. Can I still change it? But I don't know how much I like it. Momo was torn. Kaminari spoke up. Just imagine a villain botching that and calling you 3D princess. I don't think that's a bad miss-say at all. Yeah, I love making fun of bad guys for calling me princess instead of princess. It's fun banter and you could catch them off guard with it. Mina added, taking a surprisingly well-thought-out stance. That could be a running joke when you defeat a villain. It's princess, not princess, punk. Kirishima imitating a tough guy voice for the quote. Momo mouthed the word punk as if she'd ever actually say that. You don't have to choose now. You have until the end of the day. That way we can submit them along with the internship paperwork. Midnight offered. Momo nodded and got off the podium to think it over. That just left Mina, Katsuki and Hagakure to declare their hero name. Hagakure went up to the podium. Stealth Hero, Invisigirl. I like the nickname from battle training so much I just kept it. Hagakure giggled and made a cute exaggerated movement, which was normal for her since she didn't have facial expressions. Or at least visible ones. Battles are sometimes the best placing to get an insight on your hero name. Midnight stated, giving her a thumbs up. Mina went back up for the second time. Pinky, Mina said. It was short and sweet. It also worked really well with her skin color. Much better. That's a lot more friendly and inviting. That works with your personality too. Midnight commented, earning a cheer from Mina. Katsuki got up next. The whole class was dreading whatever corny, terrible thing Bakugo could think of. Ground Zero. A friend thought it was a good name, so I took it. Katsuki gloated and thanked in his own twisted way. Ground Zero inspires what you're about, so that friend of yours was spot on. Good work, everyone. Not a single complete reject unlike the last year's group. Midnight commented, giving the stage back to Aizawa. Now let's go over the internship results. Aizawa tapped a button and a screen popped up on the board. The class collectively dropped their jaws. As you can see, first and second place get the majority of all internship applications. Aizawa pointed out. Holy shit, Midoriya got 60% of all the internships. Kaminari blurted out, getting an eyebrow twitch from Aizawa. Yes, some years extraordinary individuals stand out so much they take the world by storm. This is what it looks like. Now most if not all of you, if I'm not mistaken, have at least one internship opportunity. The rest of this week you'll all be at your respective agencies instead of coming to class. Aizawa explained, handing a stack of papers to Midnight. She handed out to each student the list of agencies interested in them and their respective numbers. I expect each one of you to think hard about which agencies suit you best. Some like to pick ones that play to their strengths. Others pick ones that make up for your weaknesses. Even if it doesn't work out, you all will gain valuable insight about yourselves and about the world. Aizawa ended his speech on that note. The lunch bell rang out. The rest of the day would be studying, but Izuku had an important conversation to have. Before Ida could get too far ahead of the class, Izuku got his attention. Ida-san, a moment of your time, please, Izuku asked before he got out the door. Sure, we have time. Ida replied, no smile or emotions. They waited for the classroom to empty. Ida, I'm concerned as hell about you. Izuku leaned with, hoping to gauge Ida's reaction. The green-haired teen knew it was back when Ida was cold. For what reason? Nothing is amiss. There, I can see it. Your darkness is going to consume you. Izuku pointed out. What darkness? If you're taking about the outcome with the sport festival and internships, it was to be expected going against Bakugo-san round 1. Ida reasoned, trying to deflect. I'm taking about staying in Hosu and the recent silence from the Ingenium Hero Agency. Izuku had struck a chord. Ida glared and his tone hostile. Nothing happened except for Stain picking off the unworthy heroes. There was venom in his voice. It was unlike Ida to be like this. The taller teen was done with the conversation and went to leave. Izuku grabbed his arm, stopping him. Promise me that you wouldn't do anything stupid. That guy is no joke and you can't take him. If your brother is involved, then it would be best for you to keep your distance and not engage. You know nothing, Midoriya. Ida broke free from the hold and walked off. Izuku sighed. He would need to get the number for the Ingenium Hero Agency. He walked towards the lunchroom, kind of pissed off. An arm caught him as he was heading out to the lunch area. Thankfully, the UA uniform had long sleeves. It was Todoroki. Izuku wasn't in the mood for the bullshit that was the Todoroki family drama. What do you want? Izuku snarled. I take it that didn't go well. Todoroki commented. Course not. Ida's confident he can do something beyond his station. He's going to get himself killed if he goes where I think he's going. Izuku replied, his voice slightly raised. Even though Todoroki wanted to talk about something else, this sounded more pressing. What's going on? Stain is in Hosu. I believe Ingenium was involved and Ida is going to fight Stain. Which is going to get the bastard killed? Izuku stated, bearing no further evidence. Maybe I'll keep an eye on him. Todoroki replied, earning an raised eyebrow from Izuku. What? I care too. I want to redeem myself, Todoroki admitted. Izuku sighed. Sorry. He just rubbed me the wrong way. What did you want to talk about since you pulled me aside? Are you going to accept Endeavor's quirk? Todoroki deadpanned in the most serious tone. Izuku was taken back with how forward Todoroki was being. I don't know. He's on my list, so I was thinking about going to his agency for the internship. Maybe if I like him I'll accept, but right now I'm on the fence about it. Good. You probably won't, he's not the best guy, Todoroki warned. I figured that much from your backstory, but I want to see him as a hero and not as a father, Izuku stated, earning a nod from Todoroki. Come on, let's get to lunch. I'd hate to be hungry for the rest of the day, Izuku commented, smiling. Todoroki smirked and followed. After school the sun was setting. Ochako rushed after Midoriya. Her powers had some tuning that needed done. Ochako had received one for all just after the sport festival and had the whole weekend to play around with it. And by play she meant breaking bones like they were toothpicks. Midoriya, do you have some time? She called out to the green-haired teen outside of UA. Ochako ran to catch up to him. What's up, Uraraka-san? Midoriya asked, spotting her splinted finger. What happened? Midoriya pointed at her finger. That's what I want help with. Can we go somewhere private? Ochako asked, pleading with her eyes. Sure, I'll give all me dash, Midoriya started saying. No! Ochako shouted. Okay, I'll call Principal Niza then, Midoriya offered instead. Ochako sighed, relieved she wouldn't have to face All Might and feel like a failure with his power. Yeah, it's me, Midoriya. Midoriya sat around as the bear mouse being talked his ear off. I was hoping to get you to open one of the gyms to me for personal use, Midoriya stated, rolling his eyes when the principal started monologuing. Is that a yes or no? You started to run in circle there. Getting a bit senile? Midoriya replied. Ochako was shocked he was being so frank with the principal. The young man ended the call. He'll meet us at Gym Omega. It's an unused gym and could do with some repair work, so if we happen to break anything that could give him reason enough to repair it, Midoriya explained, walking off. The brunette followed him. Tell me how you broke your finger, Midoriya requested, glancing over to Ochako. She bit her bottom lip. I used one for all and it's way stronger than I thought. Midoriya's finger lit up. He touched her neck, earning a blush from her. Then the pain in her finger was gone. Ochako took off the splint, and she flexed her fingers. I'll help you get some control over it, but your body can only take so much abuse, Midoriya offered, smiling at her. She nodded and weakly thanked him. Principal Nizu was in fact waiting for them. If you weren't such an incredible student, I'd send you to detention for calling me senile. I see that Uraraka is with you. I can deduce that this request was made because of one for all. Is that correct? Niza asked, standing on a crate so he was almost their height. Yup, that's correct, Midoriya replied. What, you can't just tell him that? Ochako shouted in horror. Don't fret too much, young lady. I'm quite aware of your quirk and your unique condition. Niza waved, calming down Ochako. Now I'm going to get going and do some paperwork. No one will be the wiser how these keys got here, he said, dropping a key ring to the ground. Thank you, Midoriya said, snatching up the key ring. I'll make sure these never left your office. The key had the Greek symbol for Omega on it. The doors to the gym screeched as the metal ground on metal. They weren't balanced properly. He flicked the switch and about 40% of the lights turned on. Niza was already gone by this point. Not the best place, but it'll do, Ochako commented, taking off her coat and shirt. What are you doing? Midoriya shouted, looking back to see Ochako in her bra. She blushed, but it was the only way. If I don't, I'll destroy my uniform and have to explain why it's in such bad shape, Ochako replied, stealing her nerves. Midoriya did the same and shed his coat and shirt. His body was sculpted as much, if not more, than the rest of his peers. She was doing pretty good for herself too. No longer was she smooth and had no bulk. She had a six-pack to match his invisible muscles on her arms and legs. She wasn't overly muscular, but definitely was the most bulky of the girls now. It's interesting that my quirk considered your power stockpile a new quirk. It just gave me another stack of it. This means that your version is either significantly stronger than All Might's or there's something different about it. But whatever, activate it and fire it off at me, Midoriya beckoned. The fact Midoriya now had a duplicate power stockpile was a bit concerning, but attacking him with that power was more worrying. With just a finger at 100%, it produced a ton of force. A punch could really do some damage. But she complied. The power coursed into her arm as she made a fist. Just as All Might had instructed, from the depths of your heart, squeeze your butt cheeks, and yell, smash. The force of the punch was crazy. The wind pressure alone crossed the gym and slammed into Midoriya. The green-haired teen had bulked up with full body X2. He had dug his feet into the ground and put up his arms. He was pushed back some 20 meters, 65.6 feet, and his arms had been broken. Holy crap! That's a lot of force, Midoriya pointed out as his regeneration mended his arms. Ochako's right arm was out for the count. Not only did it break every bone, but the muscles were just torn to hell. Her arm was to her side limp. Now do your left arm. I'm going to counter it, Midoriya requested. Counter that? Ochako screamed in her head. She kind of wanted to see him try. She rose up her left arm, power coursed, and again smash. Midoriya rose up his right hand and let loose an ultra explosion. It looked like having two power stockpiles allowed him to arrange them how he wanted to when they were interfacing with other quirks. In the case of explosion, it looked like he could apply the buff 4 times instead of the 2. This was a 46.4% net in power. The massive explosion didn't overtake the 100% punch, but it dampened it significantly. The gust of wind was like that of a 70 km per hour, 43 miles per hour, burst of wind. Not damaging but a bit cold. Another arm was hurting and burning from the pain. 2 punches wasn't enough to defeat anyone. The fact Midoriya showed no damage from the recoil of the super explosion was more than enough of an indicator of the difference in power between them. Midoriya strode over to her, and his fingers lit up. Her bones snapped into place, and the muscles mended. She sighed in relief. We could keep this going forever. That power stockpile you have doesn't seem to get dented at all. Healing like that eats a lot of power, and so far I haven't even scraped the tip of iceberg. First, what are you doing when you make the attack? Midoriya explained, taking a few steps around her to examine her build. I'm doing just as All Might recommended. From the bottom of your heart, squeeze your butt cheeks, and yell, smash! Ochako quoted as he finished his examination. Midoriya just face-palmed. Just wipe that from your mind. You clearly can't use a 100% of the power. So let's see if you can set it lower and use that. Try to imagine 5% power. Midoriya instructed, bulking up his body. The power of 1 for all was nearly immeasurable. So just asking to do 5% didn't mean much. Instead, she focused on what she understood. She knew what 100% in a limb felt like. She powered up her arm and then tried to pull on the reins, so to speak. The power gradually lessened as she got used to the idea of reducing it. Then she lowered it too quickly and the power left her arm. Again she tried, but slowed down even more. Just practicing with the power gave her a decent insight on the depth of it. She wasn't using the stockpile itself, but rather the overflow of its regeneration rate. Eventually, after a minute or two of trying to nail 5%, she got it stable in one arm. Punch me with it, Midoriya instructed, holding out his hand. Ochako complied, striking with the 5% power. The recoil of making contact with him was the only pain she felt, and even that was minuscule. The flow was gone after that. That's about a 2.5 times increase. That's scary to think about. Full power is 50 times. That means I wouldn't stop increasing your physical prowess. Don't go for much more bulk though, try to make yourself more lean and increase muscle density. Midoriya provided her with good insight. Now again. I want you to hit me with the 5% without thinking about it, and I don't want to see it deactivate after you make the strike. You'll have to keep it going, Midoriya instructed, holding up both his hands. And swap arms. Maybe toss in a few kicks if you can manage. That night Ochako had more or less mastered using 5% of her power. It was tough to switch on the fly from limb to limb, but she managed. Midoriya told her she might want to work on a full body form that would make it easier to move around. He was right, of course, and she had been trying, but hold 5% across the whole body was hard. She just couldn't concentrate long enough to hold the form at all. They also tested out Midoriya's new stockpile. The first discovery was that it had a multiplicative increase if the double-empowered explosion was anything to go by. This resulted in a fairly crazy boost to his telekinesis and his full body form. The increase, according to Midoriya, was about 82% for his full body. The buff was about enough to outpace her strength at 5%, but that was mostly due to him being way stronger in his base form than her. Next day in Endeavor's office. I'm disappointed that my son didn't accept my offer, but I'll take the next symbol of peace. You have a lot headway to make. So I'll ask this first, what is the most important quality for a hero to have? Endeavor said behind his desk. Izuku was wearing an upgraded version of his hero outfit. It had the thin self-sealing membranes on the triceps for Momo's quirk. The metal plating was less bulky and formed better. The rubber lining was thinner and significantly upgraded. It was heat resistance up to 2,700 degrees Celsius, 4,892 degrees Fahrenheit, due to being mostly made of carbon crystals. It was also more impact resistant. The only downside was that it was nearly superconductive, making electric foes more hassle than before. There was a small touch screen on his right arm that worked like a smartphone. Power. All the rest can be taught and perfected. Power is from birth. Izuku replied. That is correct. It's the one quality you can't improve much and is the first limit all heroes face. A limit you don't possess. Endeavor pointed out, standing up. The number 2 hero was wearing most of his hero outfit. His gloves were off and his hair was normal. Izuku was a bit leery of his gloves being off, but canned the worry. What's first on the menu? Multiforce asked, smirking. Crime is a bit low at this time of day and a few patrols are already out. So paperwork. The most boring, grueling part of being a hero, but necessary. I'll show you down to the offices and get you started. Endeavor got up and strode past Midoriya. I suppose paperwork makes going on patrol more exciting. Izuku commented, following Endeavor. Endeavor laughed at the joke. You couldn't be more right. You'll get your chance later. We'll take the night patrol and see if we can't bag a few villains. Just you and me? Multiforce asked, looking up at Endeavor as they rode the elevator down. With my experience and your power, we shouldn't need anyone else to assist us. Endeavor replied, crossing his arms. They had about 8 floors to go before they got to the reports department of the Endeavor Agency Tower. Did you make a decision regarding my offer? Endeavor asked, looking down at Izuku. I wanted to see what kind of hero you were before I accepted your quirk. Multiforce replied, also crossing his arms. Fair and a bit insulting if I have to admit. I'm number 2 for a reason. Endeavor pointed out. Yes, you have the most impressive arrest rate of all heroes. But you're not the friendliest guy to the public. Izuku rebutted, smirking. Honesty. I like that. You speak your mind around those you respect. I don't respect most people, so I'm just honest to everyone. Endeavor justified. Endeavor had some depth of character, but words were nothing like actions. While he could probably get out Endeavor's ideology through words, it would be more important to see that ideology in action. The elevator dinged and the doors opened. Endeavor led the way to a few spare desks. For the rest of your stay, this is your desk. The sleeping quarters, if you choose to rest here, are 4 floors down. Endeavor took a piece of paper and wrote down a username and password. Multiforce sat down at the office desk and inspected the desk. The office space was fully decked out. 3 monitors, a top-of-the-line keyboard, a multi-button mouse, a studio-quality headset with mic, a decent printer/scanner, garbage can, and a ton of desk space. The chair to boot was comfortable. Multiforce tapped the mouse, waking up the computer. It had a log on screen on the center menu. Izuku took the note from Endeavor and logged in. He then probably used a small explosion to burn the note. His memory was impeccable after all. Balls it, but your quirk probably allows some memory storage, right? Endeavor asked. The number 2 hero was quite curious about Izuku's quirk. I had good memory before. But now with Yaoyorozu's quirk, my memory is basically photographic. Side effect to the whole, I can make almost anything I can imagine. Izuku answered, browsing the computer, seeing a few custom programs. Alright, so this is the police database. We use it mostly to search for known quirk users and give our guys out on the field a better idea of what they're up against. This application, Endeavor pointed to Comlink END, is the dispatcher for everyone on my team. Open it up and take a look. Multiforce did just that and opened the police database. He dropped the police database to his right screen and an internet browser to the right screen. The dispatcher system booting up after a minute or two. So as you can see, this is everyone that's out on patrol, Endeavor pointed out. The screen was broken into several tracking systems. The folks on patrol had trackers on them and their current route was tracked and displayed on a map. Crime hotspot areas were visible on the map as well. The system had a way to track open lines and which ones were requesting aid. The aid came in a few forms: backup, inquiry, and capture. Backup was straightforward. There was a list of heroes still at the building and their quirks/specialties. There was another tab for the on-deploy heroes and expected ETAs if you selected a main hero, and the other as backup. It was an intricate system that probably saved lives every day. It also significantly increased the efficiency of the agency. A ping came in for inquiry. This was just a request for information from either the internet or from the police DB. Put on the headset and connect. State who you are and ask for the inquiry, Endeavor instructed. Izuku placed the headset on and double-clicked the ping. Afternoon, this is Multiforce. What's your request? Multiforce said in the most natural and calm voice. You must be the new guy Endeavor told us about this morning. Welcome to the Endeavor Agency. But down to business. I've got a potential wanted criminal. Sending you the picture now, the voice said just as a picture was pulled up by the program. Within the Comlink END program was the option to connect to the DB and run images, names, and voice recordings. The options were very clear-cut, and Izuku clicked the cross-reference with Police DB option. Processing your request, just waiting for an outcome. Multiforce stated. Roger that. The voice replied. The image came up with the 89% match to a known criminal still at large. His quirk, strengths, and weaknesses were outlined along with a rank for how dangerous they were. Got an 89% match. Perp has the quirk called Bone Lance. He's good at long-ranged attacks, but struggles at close range. His threat level is AB-. Do you want me to arrange for backup? Multiforce asked, looking at who was nearby and not already engaging anyone. Sure, I'll take one more to back me up. I doubt I'll need, but just in case, the voice replied. Izuku placed him as the main hero and went to the on-patrol heroes. Clicking on a few of them gave him a cooperation level and synergy grade. He found one that was close-ish and had good markers with the main hero. Sending Lush Lender your way. He's got 15 minutes until he'll be close enough. I'll relay the perp to him and then I'll leave the rest to you. Multiforce explained completely the backup request on the program. Alright, thanks. Doing pretty good for your first day. The voice complimented before resolving the request. Well done. You're a natural. You're going to want to open the report builder program and make a report on the aid you provided and what info you accessed. Be thorough. The police expects us to be their first responders and it's our duty to provide the most accurate account of events of what we did. The police make the actual arrests, but that's not to say we can't detain a criminal. We just can't read them their rights, and unless merited we have to refrain from excessive force. If you get a capture ping, you'll have to patch into the police and request a unit to arrest the criminal. Give the street addresses and any additional details to help them out. Endeavor instructed. What are some kind of additional details I should look out for? Multiforce inquired, opening and typing into the report builder. Quirk damage to the buildings, fire, number of injured, number of criminals, active fight scenes, those sort of things. Endeavor replied. I think I've got it covered for now. Multiforce stated. I'll leave you to it and check up on you in an hour. You already had your lunch, but if you need a break, just remember to lock your computer. I don't expect you to work the whole time, but don't slack off too much either. A good work ethic and communication is important to the guys on the ground. Endeavor stated, walking away from the team. This was easy stuff for Izuku. Later that day, night had settled in. Endeavor for the fourth time today had visited Izuku. It wasn't annoying, but Endeavor had a way of making pointed small talk. First he wanted to chat about Todoroki and the school. It was a pleasant short conversation. Izuku more or less called Shoto a dick and emotionally unavailable. That one was Endeavor's fault, and he owned up to it. Otherwise the school was good, but random sometimes. Which was apparently normal for hero academies, as Endeavor explained. He guessed being a hero was hectic, and the schooling should be too. The second time Endeavor visited, he was just too damn curious about Izuku's quirk. It was hard to explain due to the fact his quirk space was not only 3D, but kind of like in a suspended space. He could also add in modifiers like toggle, switches, and logical statements. For any quirk it was robust and versatile enough that nothing could really break it down much. Except extreme passive-type quirks would be a problem. The third time Endeavor just wanted to chat. It was a political conversation about the state of heroes and the world. Izuku had adopted the All Might stance. Heroes should be heroic for the sake of saving and defending others. Wealth is secondary but not necessary. Family was also a lost relic to the heroes of now, a price Izuku would not be willing to bend for. He even stumped Endeavor with a quote he had heard. What kind of hero are we if we are only heroes? Are we nothing? Could we be happy knowing no one is there at home waiting for us? Would we not be empty if you came home to nothing? Endeavor couldn't rightly answer any of those questions. Pack it up, Multiforce, it's our turn, Endeavor declared, grinning. Multiforce locked his computer and got up. All right, after a long day of typing and talking. Getting a chance to stretch my legs is great. Seeing the number 2 hero in action will be even better. Multiforce did in fact start stretching. He quickly reapplied his body armor. Midoriya had found that being in plated armor for any extended period of time was exhausting, since most of his suit was disassemblable, so it made sense to take apart what he didn't need. Endeavor and Multiforce had already made way to the elevator. Endeavor figured it was a good time for the debrief. That's the spirit. We're going to go through the most dangerous area nearby. It's known gang territory, but unless they pick a few with us or are doing anything illegal, we have to leave them alone. For the most part, I'll do the fighting. Technically, you can't fight unless I authorize you, but I'll catch some flack for doing that. That was good to know. I know I need my provisional license before I can really do anything. Multiforce commented. That's not entirely true. You can still talk to people, rescue cats from trees, help old ladies, that kind of stuff. Endeavor deadpanned. Multiforce couldn't hold it and burst out laughing. So I'm a good Samaritan, basically. Good to know. Multiforce commented, earning a raised eyebrow from Endeavor. That's one way to put it, Endeavor replied. The elevator dinged when it reached the bottom. The two of them strode out onto the streets. After an hour of walking, they got to the troubled neighborhood. Endeavor was right. This place was rundown and had hoodlums all over. Various kinds of Quirk users were all over the place. They were all mutant type. Those that got hit with hate speech and racism more than any other kind of Quirk user. They formed gangs for unity and belonging more than any other reason. Hey you heroes, we don't want your kind around here, one of them shouted. Endeavor was looking mad. Multiforce had one opportunity to defuse this. Evening, citizen. Don't mind us, we're just making sure this area is safe and secure. Multiforce replied, waving at them. Fuck you. We don't need your help. Another person spoke up. Multiforce was much more stern this time. Then tell me, who protects you from the League of Villains? Who protected the civilians from the fires of Prometheus? The Fist of Death? The Dancing of Dominus? They were silent after that. Each of those events were from legendary villains. They set the world back so many times. Their paths of terror were complete indiscriminate violence. If not for the legendary heroes of past, they could have been reduced to ash. They moved on. It was another hour before they saw what could be potential action. A robber had just tore apart a convenience store. I'll handle the perp. You see if anyone needs medical attention. Endeavor stated, sprint off after the theft. For a large hero, he was pretty fast. Not All Might or Ida fast, but a cut above the norm. Multiforce ran into the shop and felt where everyone was. Fear not, for I am here. Is anyone injured? Multiforce shouted, getting the attention of everyone. He stabbed 2 people and ran off with our jewelry and cash. One man complained. Endeavor is on the thief. I'm here to prevent any deaths. Multiforce took a moment to feel for any liquid flowing out of people. Thanks to that second power stockpile, his telekinesis had been greatly enhanced. It was now around 9 times potency and could apply 150 kilograms of force. It also beefed up the sensory data, accuracy, and range. The clerk had been stabbed into the chest above the heart. It wasn't a fatal wound. A woman was laying on her side wheezing. She had been stabbed in the right lung. Her other lung wasn't compensating enough. She was going to die if first aid was not applied. Multiforce knelt beside the woman. She checked for her pulse first. It was weak. Are you still awake, ma'am? Multiforce asked, getting a weak yes. Nod if you have eaten dinner, Multiforce requested. She nodded weakly. His right arm lit up a light green. He placed 2 fingers on her forehead. Green light encompassed her, and the wound healed in an instant. She was still weak from blood loss, but she was stable. Multiforce tapped into the comm system, requesting a capture. A fizzle and crackling before the operator came in over his earbud. This is Ripcord. What services do you require? The operator asked. This is Multiforce. I've got 2 victim downs from single knife wounds. Both of them should be stable when emergency services arrive, but they will still need blood infusions to be fully stable. Multiforce stated, jumping the counter. Sir, did you eat dinner recently? He asked the man. I had my lunch break 2 hours ago. The clerk replied. Good enough. Multiforce's arm lit up. He touched the clerk's forehead. The man sighed in relief as his pain subsided. All right, emergency services are on their way. What about the perp? Ripcord asked over the line. You'll have to ask Endeavor. He was in hot pursuit of the thief. Multiforce replied, vaulting the counter again. He picked up the woman and brought her outside. He made sure to keep her legs elevated so her heart and brain would have more blood to work with. You're the intern, right? Ripcord asked, getting a yeah from Multiforce. I can have backup routed to you. You could get out there and back up Endeavor. While that's an enticing offer, I'll decline. I'm supposed to stay away from fighting, right? So let's not chance it, Multiforce replied. That was when he spotted 2 more people looking at him funny. On second though, send that back up anyway. I might have a fight coming at me, Multiforce requested. Roger that. Good luck, Ripcord stated as Multiforce ended the link. The young man went back inside and found someone of a strong build. Sir, I hate to ask this of you, but could you carry her while I take care of some business? Multiforce smiled at the man. Sure, I'd be happy to help, the oxen man replied. Good. Keep her legs elevated. She lost a lot of blood and we don't need any permanent brain damage. Multiforce gently handed off the woman. The 2 guys from earlier came into the shop armed with a large knife and a gun. Sirs, please step out of the shop or I'll have to remove you, Multiforce shouted. The guy with the knife backed down, but the gunman didn't seem deterred. He was going to regret that choice. The gunman aimed at Multiforce. A max-empowered telekinetic barrier was put up right outside the barrel. It was cylinder thicker than the barrel and about 10 inches long. If the bullet could eat through 150 kilograms of force pushing against it for 10 inches it more than earned the right to hit. The man then emptied his clip. The psychic barrier basically killed the velocity of the bullets. By the time they had exited the barrier, most of the kinetic energy had been eliminated. A dozen bullets clattered on the floor. Blood dripped from his nose. Nice try. But I'm in my own league. After all, I have to be if I'm going to be the next symbol of peace. Multiforce wiped the blood from his nose and pushed them out of the store with psychic force. He followed them outside. The knife wielder ran at him. Multiforce dodged the stab and only blocked his blade from that point. He placed 5 fingers on the other guy and got him into the air. The other assailant relentlessly attacked Multiforce. With one precise movement he grabbed the knife wielder wrist and got 5 more fingers on him. He too floated away. Endeavor came back perp in hand. The man had a steel pole wrapped around him. Nice work, Multiforce. No violence and they're apprehended. When the units get down here I'll take the credit just so you don't have to get yelled at. Endeavor stated, dropping the thief in front of Izuku. Just this one time, Endeavor. I'd hate for you to get all the credit. Multiforce replied, crossing his arms. I saved you the police reports and the headache of claiming it was in self-defense. Endeavor retorted. Multiforce rolled his eyes. I'm going to head back then while you sort this out. I'm not really needed after all. Multiforce said, walking away. This was the end of your shift too, Endeavor pointed out. Midoriya waved off Endeavor. Todoroki was a bit right, he was a bit of a dick, but it was to be expected if Shoto was any indication. That was the end of day 1 for Izuku. Uraraka's internship. Same day, All Might had suggested that she go and try to get an internship with his previous mentor. He was pretty nervous about the whole ordeal, which worried Ochako to no end. Her imagination of All Might's mentor was that of a stoic badass. The sun was about gone from the horizon. Ochako didn't think it would take several hours just to find this place. It wasn't in middle of nowhere. The directions just sucked. She found herself looking at a crummy apartment. Ochako knocked on the door. She was carrying her hero briefcase, which if she had to think about needed a huge change. Her old costume just isn't practical anymore for one for all. Hello, I'm Ochako Uraraka. All Might told me this is where Gran Torino lives, she said, hoping someone was home. She waited around for a few minutes before the door opened. A short elderly man was in front of her. He was wearing a hero costume. Hello, miss, how can I help you? He asked with a smile. Something was off about him if her elder censor had anything to say about it. The old man acted senile, but he didn't feel senile. His house was also oddly clean. Sure, it was a run-down neighborhood, but he was a no-name hero, so that wasn't unexpected. Are you Gran Torino? I was hoping to intern with you. Ochako smiled and nodded at him. The old man had a blank look. Gran Torino? Who's that young miss? All Might told me he lives here, Ochako replied. But I live here and I don't know any fella named Gran Torino, the old man replied. She cocked her head. His act was good, or it was genuine. One way to test it, she thought. With an all-too-quick movement she brought out her hand to shake. I'm sorry to have bothered you. He didn't flinch, but his muscles tensed a bit. Gran Torino. Ochako finished her sentence. The old man grinned at her. You're a clever lass. Come in and get changed. The old man left the door open and walked away. Ochako crossed the threshold and closed the door behind her. Changed? What now? She asked, looking at her suitcase. What are you, daft? Yes, now. I want to see where you're at. Gran Torino stated, sitting down on a couch. Opening the suitcase, she pulled out her hero costume. It looked bulky, but the hero costumes were designed so that one person could put them on. Right in the porch she shed her top. I have a bathroom if you want privacy, Gran Torino offered. It's embarrassing, but I'm good. I can't get flustered just cause I show some skin. My next hero costume is going to have to be more flexible and change to match my new strength, Ochako stated, pulling the top part of her garb over her head. Then the pants were next to go. In the matter of a minute she had changed into her hero outfit. I'm ready, Ochako stated, walking into the room with him. Who are you again? The old man replied with a blank stare. This tripped her up and for a moment she lost sight of him. The old man wasn't on the couch anymore. If not for the small sound off one wall, she would have been blindsided by a kick. Instead she blocked it. Despite his small stature he packed one hell of a punch. Whatever his quirk was, it dramatically increased his speed. He shot off again and bounced around the room like a bullet. Are you going to fight me or not? Gran Torino questioned, shooting past her and then at her. His kick landed square onto her back and almost knocked her over. Power coursed into her arms and legs. Her foot was under the coffee table and it went airborne. This had caused him to change trajectory. She lunged out and just missed a punch. Before the table hit the ground, she got her fingers on it. The next 2 strikes were fast. Her empowered arms took the brunt both times. The power of one for all increased her defense and strength, so the hits didn't hurt at all. Gran Torino tried to use the now floating table to kick off from. As soon as he hit it, it nearly hit the floor. Uraraka just got an odd sensation. One for all must be enhancing her base quirk and making it more controllable. One for all gave her the ability to continue to nullify the force applied to objects even after it left her touch. She could also make floating platforms that could withstand so much force before they would move. Using the brief window of confusion that Gran Torino had made, she clotheslined the old man. This time for real, he was knocked into the table and broke it. Good. Enough, Gran Torino said, getting up. You've got a lot of spunk in you, but a huge lack of control. I'd say you're a natural at combat, which is good considering you've got a lot to learn. Not only does one for all make you stronger, it also makes your innate quirk stronger. Gran Torino explained, getting up and wiping wood chunks from his person. I noticed. I can make floating platforms that you can step on now. That's so cool. But focusing the power in my limbs takes a lot out of me, Ochako complained, sitting down on the couch. Have you tried spreading the whole power through your body? Gran Torino asked. Yeah, I have. Midoriya recommended that to me too. Ochako frowned. Midoriya? Gran Torino asked. Ochako blushed. Oh, a bit of crush, eh? Gran Torino teased. No, it's not like that. I just admire him. He's got it all figured out already. So far he's been more of a mentor to me than All Might, Ochako admitted. Gran Torino sat next to her. He chuckled. I'm not too surprised by that. All your power came naturally to him, and he just needed to learn how to fight. It makes sense that he's not the most keen person when it comes to control or teaching people. That's unfair, but that explains a lot of problems. Ochako shrugged. I'm going to go out for some dinner. Practice that full body thing. If you're still stuck, I'll see what I can do. Gran Torino offered, jumping off the couch. She nodded. Ochako was outside the apartment in an alleyway full of garbage bags. At least they would break her fall. She imagined the power like that of a faucet. If you opened it too quickly, too much would flood in. She turned the knob ever so slightly to allow for 5% to come out. It flowed through every fiber of her being. Maintaining her concentration was most of the effort. She had to keep her hand on the knob unless she wanted it to just flood open. It was taxing to say the least. Just moving around was hard at first. Her concentration would break after a minute or two. But every time it was easier and easier to gauge the 5%. Breathing was easier. Moving was less of a chore. She ran at the wall and leapt. Her first jump cleared nearly 5 meters, 16 feet. She kicked off the wall, gaping the distance between the two buildings. She gained about 2 meters, 6 feet, vertically. Another kick and another 2 meters, 6 feet. Then midway into the third kick, her focus ran out, and she kind of just free fell 9 meters, 29.5 feet, into trash. It was as humiliating as it was relieving not to get hurt for once. She tried 2 more times but timed out around the same mark. Ochako resigned and headed back inside. Some 20 minutes later, Gran Torino showed back up with 2 grocery bags. I improved, but I can't get past a minute before it releases or floods, Ochako admitted, playing with her power. Back when I was a hotshot hero and had my own home with a backyard, there was a leaky faucet that we had in the backyard. I was just so damned busy to fix it. One day when I got a chance to relax, I had found the faucet had broken and flooded my whole garden. I was so mad, but it was my fault. Instead of just fixing the faucet and get a new one, I just let it fester. Gran Torino lamented his story. How does that help? I get that my faucet leaks, but how would I just fix it? Ochako replied. People always go on and on about how quirks are physical parts of us. But I don't hear a lot of folks saying that the way we think about our quirks matters. A quirk is like a muscle. Overuse it enough and it grows stronger. However, also like muscles, preparing your mind for the challenge ahead of time can better prepare your muscles to withstand and overcome the challenge. Gran Torino explained, earning a confused look from Ochako. You know about martial arts, right? Gran Torino asked, getting a nod from Ochako. Okay. Martial arts works on the foundation of 2 things, practice and application. Practice is easy. It's repetition until your body feels the flow as if it was natural. Application is the hard part. You can't just go around using martial arts on people. That is why masters and apprentices spar. However, that's not fair. So masters set up circumstance for their apprentices to think through and then act out the plan. It could be as simple as demonstrating a strike to putting someone in an arm or leg lock. point is they're envisioning their actions before they do them. So you're saying I need to change the way I think about one for all? Ochako caught on. I do, but not too much. It's like that of a faucet opening a channel, right? Gran Torino asked. Yeah, kind of like that. Ochako replied, knowing he more or less nailed it. Then what do you imagine that faucet is made of? It doesn't have to be a real substance. But it could just have priorities like unbreakable and immutable. The knob could be attached to a better valve. The options are there for you to upgrade it as you see fit. Gran Torino suggested putting frozen taiyaki in the microwave. Okay, I'll try that, Ochako stated, taking a deep breath. She looked within at her faucet. It was as basic as could be. He was right, she should upgrade it. Before she misunderstood how faucets worked, but now she understood what she wanted and needed. The faucet was reformed and hardened greatly. The valve was made indestructible and connected to a better knob. It had spokes on like those old-style faucets in schools. She could turn it, and the valve would only let so much through. It did not budge or move. The amount coming in was stable. Now she just needed a simple, consistent way to quickly turn the faucet on. 0 coat, 5%, Ochako thought, powering up. I did it! She jumped, punching the ceiling. Ops, congratulations. Now the real fun begins, but after dinner. Gran Torino grinned. Ochako nodded and kept the power rushing through her. She wanted to get used to the feeling. After they had their poverty dinner, it was show time. Uraraka was more than capable of keeping up with Gran Torino. She still couldn't land a hit to save her life, but he couldn't land a clean hit on her either. After 4 hours of exhausting combat, they were done. After powering down, Uraraka's body ached. Her muscles weren't used to the power and the stress. All in all, it was a first day well spent. Bakugo's internship. Katsuki had chosen the prestigious Best Jeanist Hero Agency. In retrospective, this would turn out to be a shitty decision. Best Jeanist was the number 4 hero in Japan and had an impressive history capturing villains. The blonde teen stood outside the tall skyscraper. He was already wearing his hero costume as Best Jeanist had asked. Katsuki sighed and strode through the automatic doors. He was as punctual as any would expect of a teenager, which in Katsuki's case meant he was always 20 minutes early. Best Jeanist was waiting for him in the lobby. Ah, Ground Zero, you're early, Jeanist stated. The hero was clad nose to toes in denim. The man looked just like his photos. The only thing Katsuki wasn't expecting was just how tall Jeanist was. The pro was nearly a full head and shoulders over the teen. It's better to show up early to the crime as opposed to too late, Katsuki replied. Best Jeanist smiled, or at least what Katsuki thought he did. You could still his brow move and hints of his cheeks. Well said. I can tell I will not be wrong for allowing you to intern here, Jeanist stated before he continued. First things first, let's get you up to the salon and make you presentable. Katsuki rose an eyebrow but complied. They got into an elevator together. What exactly are we going to be doing? If you don't mind me asking. Katsuki rolled his shoulders and glanced at the tall pro. Like I said, we need to address your popularity. You look aggressive and act conceited, Jeanist stated, not holding any punches. Katsuki felt a vein pop on his forehead from the mounting anger. Like hell you would know, the teen mumbled. I do know. I had a few guys do a public poll on all the finalists in the last event. You public ratings were the lowest of the 4. That Midoriya beat all 3 of you combined though, Jeanist explained in a fairly monotone manner. This was news to the teen. Izuku was ahead of him yet again. Just trying to stay on that guy's coattails would be hard enough. Todoroki and Uraraka beat me, huh? Katsuki lamented. Uraraka was the second most popular. Todoroki only beat you by a few percents. It's still not bad for your first public showing, but you were first, so you should have done much better, Jeanist pointed out. That's because that bastard Izuku has the drive and power to be the symbol of peace. Katsuki found himself making an excuse. Still, that just means you need to work on your public appeal all that more, Jeanist reasoned. The elevator dinged. They stepped out and into what was literally a salon. It was fully stocked and had a few full-time stylists. Katsuki gulped. He was going to get a makeover. Now step right into the chair and I'll get you prepped myself, Jeanist instructed, walking past the designated chair and planning out his tools of choice. Katsuki had to do something to delay the man's efforts, or at least reduce them. How is this going to help me? Katsuki asked, sitting down. Simple. Public perception is just as important as effectiveness. If we can take away some of that resting angry face, you'll be in a better place, Jeanist explained, washing his hands. What about endeavor? I've got the skill and power. Do I really need the makeover? Katsuki snarled, getting gradually more pissed. The tall hero sighed. The pro then kicked a lever under Katsuki. The chair was free to swivel. Jeanist then spun him around to face him. Best Jeanist leaned against the table. Have you heard of the 3 Ps? Jeanist asked. The 3 Ps? Katsuki rose an eyebrow. No. Let me explain then. The 3 Ps are fundamental to your success as a top hero. Jeanist started to pace around with his hand behind his back. They stand for power, productivity, and popularity. Not only must you be the best in every category to succeed, but they all must be balanced. Power is the most obvious one. If you don't have the power to do your job, then you are no hero. Some like me have to use pure skill and technique to make up for the weakness of our quirks, while others are like Endeavor or All Might and already have a strong quirk. However, as important as having great power is, it is also restraint. If you cannot control your quirk, what good can you really do? The man held up 2 fingers. Second is productivity. This can be many things, but it is mostly criminals caught and natural disasters contained. Other things that could contribute to it are, for example, my clothing line. While it helps with popularity, I also provide cheap, well-made clothing to the masses. Some like to volunteer, others assist with police work and are detectives on the side. There are a lot of ways to be productive and use our quirks to help. Just capturing criminals is the least of what a true hero does. Katsuki couldn't help but find the lecture exhausting. The problem was Jeanist had a point, and in his mind he was thinking of possible ways to further use his quirk. Best Jeanist held up 3 fingers. Lastly, we have popularity. This is the quintessence component of any hero. This is what separates us from the villains. After all, we are just one side of the same coin. Any hero could become a villain and any villain could redeem themselves. However, being popular could make the difference between people celebrating your victory over a villain or condemning you for the property damage you caused trying to apprehend the villain. The most popular of us can get away with a surprising amount of damage if the situation merited it. This doesn't mean someone like All Might can go around causing reckless damage. It just gives him a level of leeway depending on the villain he's facing. Best Jeanist continued to pace around, but his tone got more excited and inspired. This is where giving you an overhaul comes in. Much of our popularity simply comes from the way we look. Sure, actions and interviews can make up for the less appealing of us heroes, but at the end of the day those of us blessed with better looks will still get higher polling. Which brings me to you. The sport festival showcased your raw ferocity and brutality. I'm hoping I can dampen that impression by making you easier on the eyes. Katsuki was pissed now. He tried to get up, but the fabric from his costume was wrapped around the chair armrests. Much to the teen's dismay, he was now bound to the chair. Don't you fucking do it! Katsuki threatened. What foul language! Don't worry, it shouldn't take too long to give you a better look, Jeanist stated with almost a sinister sound to his voice. It wasn't quick. It wasn't pleasant. Katsuki had been restrained even more than before. After one more comment, he was threatened with being silenced. 3 hours had passed, and his hair was under control for the now. His unkempt mop of a hair had been forced into a proper style. A style that was very similar to Best Jeanist. A vibration from the teen's pocket knocked him out of his stupor. He had just got a text. It was directed at the symbol of Peace Line Group. The group name was obviously Izuku's idea. Yayorozu, Izuku, Katsuki, Uraraka, Ashido, Kirishima, Ida, Ojiro, and the newly added Todoroki were all in the line group. This was more or less Katsuki's circle of friends. While Ojiro, Ida, Ashido, and Todoroki were a bit of a stretch, they seemed like alright people. Izuku was a 20-sided die for some reason. Bastard couldn't keep a profile picture for more than a month. Kirishima had a rock for his icon, which was fitting. Uraraka had a spaceship. Todoroki was a snowflake. Ida was a wheel from a car. Ojiro took the fist that was at the screen instead of the one to the heavens. Ashido had apple juice for some damned reason. Katsuki was in cartoon explosion. It was corny, but it suited him. Yayorozu probably had the oddest one, being a pencil. It didn't really scream her, but more like the first one she found that was okay. D20, hey guys. How are your internships going so far? Rock, picking up trash around the city is so boring. Pencil, have to do a commercial shoot. Absolutely, dreading it. Apple juice, what product? That sounds fun. Pencil, whatever one Iwabumi is doing. Spaceship and apple juice. I love the products she endorses. D20 lols. I'm jealous. I'm doing desk work. Explosion, better than what I'm doing. Lovely conversation your friends are having, Jeanist said from behind Katsuki's shoulder. Katsuki jerked his head back. Oh, I shouldn't be on my phone, huh? It's fine. It's not like you can do much else while I tame this hair of yours. Jeanist combing the hair into position. Even the slightest tap or movement by Katsuki would cause over half of it to just undo. Rock, that at trash duty is better than desk duty. Pencil and apple juice, nod. D20 shrug. Pencil, what about our silent guys? What are you three up to? Wheel and Snowflake. Out on patrol, can't talk much. Fist. Babysitting some citizens that got into a minor fender bender. Explosion. Good to hear we're all having fun. Pencil. Apple juice. D20. Fist. Rock and spaceship. LOL. Spaceship. At least you guys are at your agency. I haven't even got to mine yet. The tall man made a sound. Katsuki looked up at him. I think we're done for now. Genus commented, rotating Katsuki to a mirror. His hair had been groomed to match the pro. It was staying down too. What now? Katsuki asked, trying to ignore the silly-looking dude in the mirror. I was going to patrol around the area, but I had a better idea. Genus kicked a lever on the chair. Katsuki fell forward and caught himself by standing up. Let's go to the sparring room. Then we can see you in action. Genus smirked. The teen palmed an explosion, liking that idea. The explosion was more than enough to undo all the hard work Genus had put in. The pro hero just sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Despite being disappointed in his handiwork, he kept to the plan. Again they were on the elevator. Didn't mean to ruin the hairdo, but my hair is just kind of like that, dry. The teen pointed out. Probably due to your quirk. By the end of this week I swear to you I will find a way to tame it. Genus promised. Katsuki nervously chuckled. The elevator dinged. The entire floor was basically a gym. There were separated rooms for yoga, personalized sparring, and certain self-defense courses. The general area had a plethora of treadmills, weightlifting machines, and a large boxing ring. They made a beeline for the boxing ring. The ring was quarter the size of the tournament stage. It was quite large for being indoors. Based on the room layout, Katsuki could only predict that the extra rooms were actually upstairs and the doors were just small elevators. There were two heroes practicing in the ring. When they spotted Best Genus, they stopped. Sir, what are you doing here? One of them asked. By their reaction, Katsuki could tell this was unusual for Genus to be here. Just seeing what our intern is capable of. Genus replied in the most calm voice. The other two paled and got out of the ring immediately. This was a bad sign if Katsuki understood cues at all. Using his quirk, Genus opened the ring ropes to let them in. This should have been bad sign number one, but Katsuki dismissed it. A few of the heroes around the room noticed Best Genus. They all got ringside. It must be rare to see Best Genus in action. Katsuki stood at one corner and Genus in the other. See if you can get me after the bell is rung. Can someone ring the bell, please? The pro hero requested. There was an old boxing bell off to the side of the ring. One of the heroes near it pulled the switch. The bell rang loud. Katsuki got maybe one step before he was unable to move. Best Genus' number 4 hero spot wasn't for show. The man had amazingly fast reflexes. In that split second, both of Katsuki's hands had been put to his chest and held there. If he dared to use his quirk, the recoil would be immense. You're smart, and your instincts are very refined for someone your age. Genus complimented him. Not enough to even reach you, though. Katsuki lamented. Perhaps not, but I have years of experience and superior quirk control over you. Genus pointed out. Then what was the point of this? Katsuki asked, glaring. To show just how big that mountain you hope to climb is. That friend of your Midoriya, from what I can tell, is almost there. Thanks to that quirk of his too, he'll just keep getting stronger. You have a limit though. Genus explained, loosening the threads around Katsuki. This just pissed Katsuki off to no end. God damn everyone. Will people stop fucking comparing me to that bastard? Katsuki kicked off the ground and was stopped almost an inch later. Get used to it. He's in your class and your same age. Best Genus rebutted. This just made him angrier. Every time the threads would loosen, he'd creep further. Every time he rotate his hand just a little bit more away from his chest. Genus then threw him into the corner. If that's all the spunk you have, I'm afraid you won't get far. Genus deadpan, beckoning Katsuki to attack. This interaction between them went on for 4 hours before Katsuki was unable to stand. Best Genus had run him ragged and he had nothing to show for it. Not even once had he got close enough to even be able to do anything. The top 10 were in their own league. And then All Might was in his own league above that. Yayarose's internship. Momo had arrived with another. Someone she kind of recognized. She was another hero from Class B. Itsuka Kendo, dubbed the big sister of Class B. Kendo's hero uniform was just as bad as hers in terms of skin. Kendo had an ongoing vibe to her, and wasn't afraid to wave to Momo when she arrived. You choose Yawabami too, huh? Kendo asked, smiling in a very similar way to Izuku. They were eerily similar. I did. She's a popular woman that's high up on the ranks, so I was hoping to learn a few things from her. Momo stated in a less than casual manner. Wow, what a coincidence. That's the same reason I choose her. Kendo seemed to have a permanent smile plastered on her face. They both went through the front door. The receptionist directed them to what floor they should go to. In the elevator Samurai was sitting in. Momo had quite a few offers. The heiress had gotten an invitation from Miruko's agency. After watching a few videos of Miruko in action, she decided that the rabbit hero was too intense for her. Momo had some 30 floors to wait before they would get to Iwabami's studio. While small talk wasn't in the plan, it would speed things up. "How has your class been doing?" Momo asked, glancing over at Kendo. Kendo sighed. "It's just pure chaos sometimes. Especially with all the Quirk training we've been doing." "Quirk training? No live training?" Momo asked, raising her eyebrow. "Yeah, Vlad thinks our Quirk strength is low, so that needs to be taken care of first," he said. Her face got more stern looking and she stood up straight. "You can get live training out on the field. Right now I need to make sure you'll all be useful once you get there, or something like that." She giggled, putting back on her normal look. It's been all practical Quirk application for us. We haven't done much Quirk training at all." Momo brought her hand to her chin. She thought about it for a moment. If she looked at the class overall, they were all strong Quirk users. Class A must have been for the naturally strong Quirks that need more control to be useful. Class B was for the underperformers that needed more guidance off the bat. It made sense. Both classes would progress at about the same rate over the whole group. Momo then wondered if they would ever be pitted against one another. It would be good training, but furthermore it would open a dialogue between the two classes, a task that for some reason has been rather hard to do. Neat. What was the USJ like?" Kendo asked. It was an inevitable question. "At first we were frightened, but after a few of us stepped up we remembered that we're heroes in training. Then we did our best to fight the villains that attacked us. Most of them were really weak," Momo replied, letting her arm fall to her side. "Oh, that's so cool. I'd like to think that most of us in Class B would do the same," Kendo commented. "Except for the 3 main villains, the rest weren't too scary." Momo shrugged. "Nomu, Shigaraki, and Kirojiri, right?" Kendo asked and Momo nodded. "I heard a rumor that Nomu almost killed someone." "Well, I'm pretty sure he would have died if not for his quirk." Momo smirked, thinking about him. "No way! You're telling me Midoriya took on Noma?" Kendo almost shouted, in an elevator. Momo winced from the sudden increase in volume. "Yeah, he did, alongside Aizawa, Uraraka, and Todoroki," Kendo whistled. "Must have been one heck of a beast to hold back 4 people," Momo scoffed. "Hold back? They lost. It wasn't until All Might showed up that we had a chance," Kendo frowned. "Sorry. I've just been so curious about the whole thing. I just assumed that it went a lot better than it did," Momo sighed just as the elevator dinged. "Don't be. I'm glad we made it through in one piece." Momo smiled at Kendo. Kendo nodded and smiled back. Iwabami was sitting down getting her makeup and hair done. Without turning to see them. "Welcome, girls. How have your days been so far?" "Good," Kendo replied. "All right." Momo shrugged. The pro waved away her assistants. The woman turned to see the teens. Her eyes lit up when she saw them. "Oh, you're so much better looking in person," Iwabami commented, standing up. The pro strode over to them and inspected them. "You'll both do," she stated, nodding. "Do what?" Momo asked, a bit worried. "For the commercial, obviously. I'm doing a shampoo ad and I was hoping that the interns were good looking. Neither of you disappoint." Iwabami smirked, waving over a few assistants. "I didn't sign up to be a hero to do ads." Momo started frowning. Iwabami frowned. "Oh no? Are you going to rise to the top with your power and good looks alone?" Momo hesitated. She didn't know if she wanted to be a top hero. She just wanted to help people and make the world a better place. "I just want to contribute and make the world a better place," Momo replied. Iwabami took a few more strides to Momo. The older woman was just taller than Momo. "So do I. But how am I going to reach the most people as I am? Putting in the hard work only gets you so far. At some point you have to diversify. That's why I'm doing this ad," the pro hero admitted. She was glaring down at Momo. "Not all hero work is catching villains and stopping disasters. Some of us use our good looks and brains to advertise the right products and solve problems. Don't for a moment think I'm doing any regular ad. This product has a particularly low carbon footprint and is cheap for the average consumer. This is what I do to better the world," Iwabami stated with a death glare. Momo felt herself recoil from the overwhelming presence of the pro. Iwabami smirked and backed off. "Now let's beautify both of you and get you ready." They spent hours in front of bright mirrors touching up their hair, face, and skin. Momo tried to spend the time texting, which Kendo was very interested in. "Can you add me? I'd love to get to know some of the Class A folks," Kendo asked. "As much as I'd like to. Izuku is the admin of the line group. You'd have to ask him." I can add your number to my phone, though. Momo replied, wincing as her hair was straightened. Izuku? Is that Midoriya? Kendo asked, cocking her head. Momo mentally face-palmed. Yeah, that's Midoriya. Do you want his number too? Momo admitted and offered. You call him by first-name basis? Kendo was just inquisitive. I do. A lot of things happened and he's been a good friend to me. Momo replied, looking away. Her cheeks got a bit warm. She was blushing. Ooh, you've got a crush. Does he know? Kendo asked. I don't. I idolize him, that's all. Momo rebutted. Come on. I can tell. Kendo pointed out, actually pointing to her cheeks. It's really not like that. I'm grateful to him. Momo gently pushed away Kendo's finger. The other teen was much stronger than she looked. Okay, promise to tell me if any juice details come to light. Kendo teased. Momo smiled and nodded. It was good that maybe she had made another friend. The two of them were the background extras for the shoot. They didn't have any lines and just had to look pretty. Later the two of them shared phone numbers. The day ended completely uneventful. But this was just day one of a 4-day internship, and surely something would happen. Bonus chapter: The Philosophy of Villainy. Shigaraki was tapping his fingers, annoyed to all hell. The guild recruiter was taking his sweet time. It's not like the man was paid or anything. Kurojairi was out on a quest. Master was being his usual quiet self. He hadn't got a quest from him in a long time. Then again, Shigaraki was still in the midst of finishing the storyline quest, a quest which had very little in the way of markers or clues. A short sound like that of a puff was made. Kurojairi was back. I found him, the Void Man stated. Shigaraki rose an eyebrow. He wasn't aware that the man was on a fetch quest. Who? Shigaraki replied. Stain, the hero killer. Kurojairi stated, taking a few steps towards Shigaraki. An interesting find. Take me to him. I'd like to meet him, Shigaraki requested. I will warn you. He's a bit abrasive, Kurojairi warned, earning a shrug from Shigaraki. The two of them vanished. Shigaraki felt the wind at his back as he looked out at the nighttime city. They were on a rooftop. The leader of the league could feel the man's bloodlust. Stain was behind them on the other side of rooftop. Stain didn't regard them at first. He was surveying the area, probably looking for his next kill quest. Kurojairi spoke up first. Stain, have a moment? Stain didn't look at them but replied. Make it quick. I have a quota to fill in this area after all. A quota? Shigaraki was intrigued now. You're that famous hero killer, right? Shigaraki asked, grinning madly. If that is the title you must use, then it is correct. I have killed many and crippled more, Stain lamented. Shigaraki took a few more steps towards Stain. It was around this point he was in kill range that Stain turned to look at them. Alright, hero killer, would you like to chat somewhere more comfortable? I think you would be a great recruit, Shigaraki asked. Stain looked to the alleyways one last time and then nodded. They were all gone in an instant. Stain looked around, getting his bearings. The man was cautious by nature, and he should be. His rep with Shigaraki wasn't high enough for him to earn any benefits. What do you stand for? Stain was straight to the point. The League aims to eradicate society and build a new one with quirks on top. The idea of villains and heroes will be abolished. Only the strong will rule, Shigaraki stated like he was reading from a script. Eradicate society, huh? Then I'm not interested, Stain bluntly stated. What? You kill heroes all the time, Shigaraki retorted, getting a glare from Stain. I'm doing that as a service to society. Heroes that only in it for the money and fame are a blight on society. They need to be purged so that only the pure remain. I can't agree with destroying it all, Stain explained, his muscles tensing. His danger sense was as sharp as could be, and Shigaraki was driving it wild. That's a half measure. Why not purge the whole thing and start with a clean slate? Shigaraki asked, his hands getting antsy. He was getting annoyed at this false hero. All Might is the reason. As long as there are heroes like him, then this society is worth saving. All I have to do is weed out the greedy. Now send me back, Stain commanded. Shigaraki was almost ready to just attack, but a thought came to mind. What about the next symbol of peace, the Pretender? I'll kill him just as I would any of them. Stain deadpanned. What would you say if I could give you a good shot at taking him down? Shigaraki grinned, seeing the gears rotate in Stain's head. Stain never had a problem finding and killing targets. But it was all random. He had many on his hit list. Endeavor and this new Pretender were number one. I'm listening. If he wasn't under so much scrutiny, I'd get him myself, Stain answered. What if I said I could give you Endeavor and Midoriya? Shigaraki was still grinning. It somehow got even more wicked. I'm all ears, Stain replied. Join us and I'll tell you. Shigaraki offered, holding a hand out for Stain. The black-clad man armed to teeth hesitated. This was the ultimate opportunity to nail his biggest mark and get a bonus. But he had to offer up his soul. Unless he got caught, then he'd be out of the league. While life in Tartarus would suck, it would be preferable to being a puppet. The man shook the villain's hand reluctantly. It's official. Tell the recruiter to suck it. I could do his job better than him any day. Shigaraki gloated. Stain had not missed that Shigaraki's pinky was not in that handshake. Most likely Quirk related. Tell me then, what's my big opportunity? Stain asked. Believe it or not, I have an informant in UA. This informant has given us a detailed report of which students went to what agencies. Midoriya chose Endeavor's agency. The problem is we're too undergeared and underleveled. We're also short of the minimum raid requirement, but there's a chance we can run a stealth op and get them out of the fortress. Shigaraki reached behind the bar and pulled out a map. I think I get the gist of it. You're a bit hard to understand, but I can manage, Stain admitted, watching Shigaraki. The head villain pulled up the map of Hosu. Right now a kid named Tenya Ida is out on the streets of Hosu around here. This is just on the edge of your normal radius. If I recall correctly, you just recently hospitalized his older brother. Ingenium. So this kid is probably out for revenge, and he thinks he's a hotshot cause he survived our last raid. You could use him to bait his friend. Shigaraki plotted, folding up the map. Based on what you know, would Midoriya he a problem one-on-one? Stain asked, hoping to learn more than what the sport festival showed him. The kid grows at a terrifying rate. I dare say just as fast as you, master. Shigaraki turned to the one screen, hoping to get a reaction. TCH. Apparently his quirk allows him to gain a duplicate of another person's quirk. It's bloody god tier and a nat 20 at that. He's more powerful at the sport festival than when he fought the Nomu. I wouldn't underestimate him. For all you know, he could have Endeavor's quirk by now. Shigaraki posited. A scary individual. What would someone do with all those quirks? Stain commented. The TV crackled on. Indeed, what a scary individual. If you manage to survive, Stain, tell me what kind of progress he's made with his quirk. If you think you can kill him, then try to, but I will be disappointed. Potential like that is hard to come by. A deep voice from the TV stated. Good night, master. Why are you interested in Midoriya? Shigaraki asked, looking at the screen. Stain was getting wicked vibes from the TV. Whatever it was giving him a spine-chilling vibe. His stomach was turning and his blood turning cold. This man had an overwhelming presence from just the scene of a television. Let's just say I have a vested interest in the young man. The voice replied before the TV was off again. Shigaraki sighed. He was being cryptic as usual. If you're worried about other heroes showing up, let's just say I have a few toys to throw at them. Shigaraki laughed maniacally. Void person, send me back, Stain requested. This stopped Shigaraki dead in his tracks. You want to go back and claim a few more victims? Shigaraki asked. It's Kurajiri, Stain. If you wish. The Void Man complied and made a portal next to him. My job is barely done. Just because I joined your cause doesn't mean I'll abandon my own, Stain reasoned, taking a step towards the portal. Shigaraki took one step towards him. Stain stopped in his tracks. While normally I won't mind if my lackeys went and grinded some XP, in this case the op is too crucial to jeopardize. So I'd prefer if you stayed, Shigaraki demanded quite sternly. Stain was reaching for his katana and a pair of throwing knives. The next moments were like lightning. Shigaraki was just as quick as Stain. The black-clad assassin had his katana in hand. The throwing knives had just missed their target. Willing to fight your way out of here? Shigaraki asked/yelled. Of course. I have a few heroes in mind that were nearby I'd like to cut down, Stain stated back. The assassin lunged at Shigaraki. A dodge and a near hit with a full grip. Stain was keen to prevent Shigaraki from touching him. A few more exchanges and they were no closer to harming each other. They were almost even in combat skill. Shigaraki had the slight edge, being just tougher. Another minute of dodging the katana and Stain deftly dodging Shigaraki's open hands went on. Shigaraki decided to gamble. His luck stat was pretty good after all. When Stain went to strike with his katana, Shigaraki decided to go for the blade. It lands home on his palm, but his quirk activated. Stain jumped away and tossed a few knives at him. The damage was done. The katana broke just around where the fingers touched. A knife sunk into his right shoulder. The other went wide. They both lunged again. Portal opened all over the shop. That is enough, Kurajiri stated. Both of Shigaraki's hands were in portals and a pair of knives were planted into the ceiling. Shigaraki sighed and nodded. I guess I'll need to replace my katana, Stain lamented, tossing the decaying weapon to the floor. I have a contact that may help. Kurogiri offered. I expect to see you both over here tomorrow so we can go through the specifics of the plans, Shigaraki stated, pulling out the knife in his shoulder. The first aid was his next step. Good thing he had a decent skill in first aid. Kurogiri and Stain vanished from sight. The TV flickered on once more. I've got 4 more Nomas ready for you to use. Just let me know when you want to deploy them. Thank you, Master. I'll make sure to use them at the peak of the excitement. Shigaraki grinned as the TV turned off again. This stealth op was going to turn into a small dungeon battle, and that's it for part 4 of What If Deku Had Quirk Duplication. Big thanks to Draconite227 for keeping this adventure alive and kicking. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you're always in the loop. Your support is everything, timekeepers. Until next time, stay awesome and keep dreaming big.